But I mean, how do you feel going into it compared to the Klitschko fight?
Better. I feel better.
Less nervous?
It's not so much nerves, I just feel a lot more experienced. I know what I'm doing. I know exactly what I'm doing. I know what I'm going to do. I know.
And that is?
Knockout. It's Kronk style. Watching a lot of when I watch certain things, I like Emmanuel Stewart's mindset, right? Obviously you got to do your A's and B's and C's, but if you follow them, they'll lead you to KO. And that's what we're here to do, is put on a spectacular show, right? People want to see knockouts, you know, and that's what we've got to deliver for the fans. Yeah. Will he go for the knockout? Who knows? It'll be a...
Are you going for the knockout?
Yeah, you have to. This is heavyweight boxing. This is. Look, is the sweet science. Hit, don't get hit. But let's keep it real, right? People are out to see knockouts, you know, and I want to deliver for these people.
What's good, family? So mash the like button, subscribe, and lick off the bell. Wow. So we just heard there from your man's Anthony going for the KO Joshua. Now, I can't lie to you, man. I am somewhat surprised. You man know, you've been following my content. We've seen, there's been leaks, a few leaks still from AJ's training camp, and we've seen some suspect things. We've seen him dancing around. We've seen him doing some pity-patty things. And the general vibe, up until the last few days, the general vibe has been, it's going to be a Ruiz 2, a Pulev. Because don't get me wrong, we know, yes, the Pulev fight finished in a KO, but apart from that round 3 spurt and that round 9 spurt or whenever it was, the rest of the fight was pity-patty. Yeah? That's a fact. There was 2 spurts in the fight. The first spurt didn't end in a KO, and the last spurt, you got a KO. But the rest of the fight was, I don't know what to call it, super duper pity-patty. At not one point in the rest of the fight was he going for the KO. The Ruiz 2 fight, there was no going for the KO. So it's not, when you combine people base future predictions on the past, obviously. We can't see into the future. Although many people have kind of made allegations, YB, you can see in the future. Of course you man, yeah? Putting the YB to one side, most dons can't see into the future. So we based future predictions on the past. The past tells us, especially with recency bias, Ruiz 2, no KO. Pulev, barely a KO. But AJ is saying, I like to think AJ is quite a trustworthy person, if that makes sense. He's not a muck tapper who's going to just gas the place up. AJ is now saying, as you heard there, he's going for a KO and he's going to do it for the fans. He said, listen, and the thing is as well, it's not just what he said. He's not just trash talking. He says it with a level of sincerity. Listen, let's be honest. I'm going for the KO. Let's be honest. We can all do the pity-patty boxing and stuff, but what do the fans want? And it's interesting. What have I been saying? Again, no one else ain't talking about these things. Everyone else gassed the place up. The YB was the one in the last few weeks who said, no fans ain't trying to watch that. Even AJ super fans were saying, oh YB, you know, it's boxing and oh, we love seeing it. So, even AJ himself knows that you man are gassed up. Because AJ's saying what I've been saying. That's a fact. I said, ain't no one trying to watch that. Oops. All of a sudden AJ saying, ain't no one trying to watch that. Yeah, he locked in. No doubt. What he needs to do though is give the YB his flowers. No doubt about that. Yeah? Take a man's bars and not paying homage. But anyway, let's carry on. Listen. In this video, yeah, in this analysis, I've got to be honest with you, man. I'm going to tell you where I'm putting my money. Because that's what matters. We can all sit here and say, oh yeah, it sounds good. AJ is going to go for the KO. But honestly, yes, in terms of percentages, before these last few days, before hearing some of these quotes here, I was 95% sure we were going to get a Ruiz 2 performance. Now after hearing these comments, knowing and hearing the genuineness of them, this doesn't really feel like throwaway trash talk. It could be. We'll find out. What we know is, on Saturday, tomorrow we're going to find out whether this is building anticipation, whether it's marketing, or whether it's genuine. If it's genuine, he's going to go in there, and we'll know early. I'll know within the first 3 rounds, or before, if he's seriously on this thing, or if... And to be honest, it doesn't even necessarily... If he doesn't go in there and he's not actively searching for the KO, it doesn't mean he's a liar. It means that, in my opinion, his training and his preparation isn't lining up with his mentality. You can have this mentality of, I'm going for the KO, I'm going to do it for the fans. You can have that mentality. You can watch the videos AJ's talking about watching. Oh, I've been watching the Kronk videos. But my issue is, like I said, it's one thing having that mentality. It's one thing watching them videos. But if your whole team, yeah, is a whole bag of moist man, and for the last 6 years, or in particular this camp, for the last 3 months, you've had a whole team full of moist man, and for the last 3 months in your camp, all you've heard is moistness. The whole strategy has been moist. The whole plan has been McCrappen moist. Yeah? Regardless of how much you want to be on it, it's going to be difficult to undo that, if that makes sense. I always turn back to what you do in training, what you do in your preparation, is what you're going to do in the fight. It's no good watching a few Emmanuel Stewart videos, but then the mainstay, the base of what you're doing day in, day out is the opposite. And that's what worries me here to an extent. And after, you man know me, I've been the one saying it. I've been saying AJ's mentality, AJ's nature is to be smoky, is to be a Mike Tyson, Lennox Lewis hybrid. No one else has been saying that. I've been saying that. So no one knows is better than the YB does. And what you're hearing here is AJ's natural nature coming out. He wants to perform. He wants to knock out. He wants to do it for the fans. How do we know this is AJ's natural nature? Well, look at the start of his career. Look at all of his career until McCrappen got his hands on him, essentially. Boring ass looking ass McCrappen. AJ's nature is there. It's there. You can't deny it. It comes out. Look at the look at the Klitschko fight. When AJ's down bad, natural nature comes out. He's there for the smoke. But unfortunately, it's no good in my opinion. We're going to find out though. Maybe I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, you know what I'll do. I'll come on here Monday and say, listen, people, I was wrong. AJ pulled out the bag. And he went in there and he marched Usyk down and he was on his job. If he does that, I'll give McCrappen and them and their credit. No problem doing that. But my best bet is at the moment, bearing in mind as well, on your screen now, you'll see some videos I did before the Pulev fight. And if you actually remember correctly, before the Pulev fight, AJ was actually saying something similar. He said, yep, it's back to knockouts now. I remember it. I remember watching the videos on it. I remember getting gas thinking, yeah man, he's back on it. But then guess what? He got in there, and like I told you before, you can have the mentality. You can want to do that. But if your whole preparation has been the opposite of that, you're never gonna be able to fully commit, or you're never going to be able to fully implement a Kronk style if you haven't been training a Kronk style. A few videos on YouTube don't cut it. And that's what frustrates me in a way with AJ. If he knows he wants to perform like Kronk, why doesn't he go and get a Kronk style team? Shane McGuigan, look at Josh Taylor. Josh Taylor, in my opinion, is even better than the current Kronk thing, truth be known. How he performs, or how he used to perform. Go and get, and you know what, even if I'm wrong, oh YB, you're always rubbing off Shane McGuigan, fine. Not Shane, but find someone who has them principles. Guess who don't have them principles? McCrappen don't. He don't have them principles. He don't have the Kronk principles. And that's what's frustrating here, or confusing. For example, we hear people like Lawrence Okoli. Lawrence Okoli, he's got a fight coming up. Now, it's against the bum, but either way, my point is, when Lawrence Okoli talks about his strategy and his plan in the last few days, he said, yep, we're going to implement an aggressive strategy that me and Shane have come up with. Yeah? So Okoli is talking about things that involves his circle of influence. Me and Shane have cooked up a dastardly plan to smoke this dude, which makes sense. I can believe in that because that's within his circle of control. Yeah? Lawrence Okoli isn't talking about implementing something he's watched on YouTube from a trainer who's dead kind of thing. That makes sense. So I can't understand. If AJ knows he wants to implement Kronk, but his team ain't nothing like Kronk, what's going on? Get rid of the dead wood and bring in something that's what you want to... Does that make sense? Doesn't make sense to me that you're trying to be influenced off of YouTube videos. Which again, clearly implies and proves what I've been saying. I've been saying that AJ's for a little while now has been looking for things outside of his circle of influence. Oh, let's stop doing pads and maybe it's this, maybe it's that. Well, the truth is, doing all these little things, oh, I'm watching Emmanuel Stewart videos and I want to be Kronk, and that's not it. You're putting You're putting plasters on the problem. And that also explains why the Pulev fight happened how it happened. That was a confused performance. Compare it to someone like Alvarez. No confusion. Like a metronome. Consistency. AJ's performance, 1 minute he was going hell for leather, missing and just going wild. The next minute, he dancing around and touching a jab to the body and dancing out. Confused. Why? Well, we know why. You've got AJ's nature being extremely aggressive, which comes out when the adrenaline drops. Your natural nature is going to come out. So when AJ thinks he hurts Pulev, his natural nature comes flying out, and that's when he goes crazy. Not efficient. The other side of things is the other side of the performance, where you see AJ in there for 6 rounds not doing nothing. That's the McCrappen. That's what's been going on in camp for years. The best athletes perform the best way when they combine their natural nature with a trainer who can harness that. Look at Mike Tyson. He was naturally aggressive. He teamed up with a trainer who had the perfect naturally aggressive style. And that's why, put the two together and you see controlled madness in Mike Tyson. Same as Alvarez. It's that controlled aggression. We don't have no one in AJ's camp controlling the aggression. All they want to do is shut it off. Oh, calm down, AJ. Nice, AJ. Behind the jab, AJ. Don't step out of line, AJ. You ain't got that kind of fighter. This isn't a Vladimir Klitschko. That's how Rob McCrappen would work well with Vlad Klitschko. Hasn't got no aggression. Don't want to fight on the inside at all. Don't want to put combinations together. Just want to be nice and scary behind the jab. That would work great for Vlad. It's not going to work great for someone like AJ. Don't get me wrong. He can still pull it off. He can still win belts because that's how much of a top-level athlete he is. You man don't get that. You say YB. Huh, I can't believe you're saying that. And McCrappen's won 3 belts. Listen, I'm telling you now, anyone, I could win 3 belts with AJ as the athlete in this current crop of heavyweights. When you have them once-in-a-generation athletes and the rest of the field is people like Potbelly Dillian White, who's the next best one, or Potbelly Tyson Fury, I'm not being funny, what, you want a medal? I genuinely believe anyone could win belts with AJ in this current crop of heavyweights because they're no good. So please don't use that as something that shows you how great McCrappen is. But anyway, let's reel it back to this point. AJ is now saying he wants to go for the KOs. Now, you man heard I told you already, I'm putting money on this fight. I'm backing AJ to win. Now, before these comments came out, I was 95% sure it was going to be a Ruiz 2 or, at best, a Pulev performance. But even when I say a Pulev performance, I don't believe AJ's going to get a stoppage against Usyk if he performs like Ruiz 2 or if he performs like Pulev. The Pulev stoppage came because Pulev is old, is nowhere near as sharp as Usyk. But if AJ performs in that same fashion as he did against Usyk, he won't get the KO because Usyk's too cute, too fast, too much IQ. I feel in the Pulev fight, AJ stumbled on the KO. He didn't earn that KO. He didn't break someone down and beat the will out of Pulev. Pulev just got old and Pulev just got caught. That wasn't a, yeah, I saw that coming. Be honest with yourself. When you watched the Pulev fight, no one knew that them 2 knockdowns were coming. Came out of nowhere. I don't believe you're going to get that kind of luck against Usyk. In fights like Usyk, in fights like Fury, 9 times out of 10, yeah, I believe 1 time out of 10, yeah. 1 time out of 10, AJ will probably catch Usyk or catch Fury. But 9 times out of 10, to beat the Furies in the stoppage, to beat the Usyks in a stoppage, you're going to need consistency. You're going to need the jab driving into him, doubling it up, touching him consistently. 40, 50 punches a round. 60 punches a round. Again and again and again. And after about 8 rounds, 9 rounds of pounding, of double jabbing, of right hands, of 3-punch inside combinations, after that, 6, 7, 8 rounds of that, breaking him down, that's how you earn the KO against them kind of cats, against the Furies and against the Usyks. That in the Pulev fight, there weren't 1 double jab. There weren't no cutting the ring off, putting him under pressure. When someone's under pressure, that's how they run out of gas. Watch the Pulev fight. Pulev was the one coming inching forward. No, it's actually, if you try boxing, yeah, it's actually pretty hard to get tired coming forward. The hard work in boxing is when you're backing up, dancing around the place. And that's why Joseph Parker got worn down. That's why most of AJ's opponents get worn down. Because he's coming forward, and they're the one having to do the most just to stay out of range and stay alive. Like a rabbit versus a fox. That's how AJ needs to be to beat Usyk in a stoppage. So like I said, if he goes in there with the Ruiz way of thinking, or the Pulev way of thinking, it ain't going to happen. And like I said, on that basis, I'm 95% sure we're going to get that kind of performance. So I'm currently betting on AJ to win on points, and AJ to win overall. That's where I'm at now. Now, obviously, that was my main opinion 3 days ago. I've started to hear these comments now. I want to go for the KO. I want to do it for the fans. I've been watching the Kronk videos and whatnot. Now, like I said, I was 95% sure it was going to be a Ruiz 2 performance. Hearing these comments takes me down to, what, 75%. But I can't sit here and tell you, oh, it's now flipped the other way. I'm now 95% sure he's going to go for the KO and be totally ferocious from the jump. Because, yes, I always knew AJ's nature is to be that way inclined, is to be KO focused. But at this point in time, I just can't bet against McCrappen. I can't bet against it. Now, listen, what we do know is, let's say AJ decides to bring Shane McGuigan in as head trainer. In that fight, the first Shane McGuigan fight, I'm going all in on the KO. There's no doubt about it. The same way, look at the Okolie fight. Okolie weren't knocking no one out who was any half sharp. Okolie gets to Shane McGuigan, and all of a sudden, Glowacki, the man who Usyk couldn't stop, gets smoked in their first fight. No doubt about it. But until AJ changes the team, or shows me something spectacular, like maybe this is the fight. Because to be fair to Team AJ, I don't know. This for me will be the confirmation. This fight here, the Usyk fight, because he's small. There's no excuse that AJ shouldn't be super aggressive in this fight from the jump. He's small, hasn't been able to knock down no heavyweight. Even the guy he stopped, that random top 200 dude, didn't knock him down. He quit on the stool. Never once has Usyk scored a knockdown at heavyweight. In fact, he barely scored any knockdowns at cruiserweight. So in my mind, coming up against a super athlete, a smaller man who didn't have any power at cruiserweight, AJ's got no excuse, or Team AJ have no excuse to have developed any other strategy than straightforward and put him under pressure and break him down. And the fact that AJ's now saying, oh yeah, there's no other way, Kronk style. If we do see anything less than that, then we know for a fact it's not AJ. It's to do with how he's been schooled and how he's been trained. Because if AJ's verbally saying he wants to be KOs, why is that not being implemented in the camp? Now, again, I'm not going to hold AJ's team fully responsible because, end of the day, you're a 30-year-old man. If you want to be KOs and Kronk, and your team are training you to run around like a fairy, it's no good being loyal and humble, and you're wasting your whole career, the best days of your life. So yeah, they're both responsible. Ultimately, AJ is fully responsible, actually, because he's a big man. I shouldn't have to spell this out. He knows there's something wrong. Because, again, the fact AJ's even sitting there saying, oh, I want to be like Kronk. Imagine that. Imagine training someone, yeah. Imagine training someone and them talking about another trainer. Whenever I hear Lawrence Okolie speaking, all I hear is Shane McGuigan. Why? Because that's all he needs, and he knows it. He's comfortable, and he feels fully, what's the word? Fully achieved, or fully, you know what I mean? He's fully satisfied in that relationship. Lawrence Okolie ain't watching no Kronk videos, looking for inspiration. He don't need it. He got what he needs in front of him. So the fact AJ's sitting there actually talking about another trainer, and that just shows you how lacking Rob McCrappen is. How down bad AJ's team are. For example, let me put it into an analogy some of you may understand better. It's a bit like a Chelsea team player. Imagine Man United. Imagine 10 years ago, yeah? Man United and Chelsea are about to go into a big fight. And you got a Man United player talking about, oh, yeah, we want to try and play like Jose Mourinho's Chelsea team. Or, you know what I'm saying? Or another team saying, oh, yeah, we want to try and play like Alex Ferguson's. That'd be a madness. And that's what this right here is a madness. You should be getting, all AJ should be saying right now is, yeah, I'm going to perform like Rob McCrappen. It's going to be Rob McCrappen style, because that's how I'm trained. But this tells you that they're in crisis mode, in my opinion. At this level, with this kind of, at this level, it should be clear, direct focus with the current team you're in. You don't hear Canelo Alvarez talking about, oh, we want to be like Kronk style. Why? Because he's got his own style. You should have your own style with your own team who get what you're about. Clearly, in my opinion, AJ's team don't get what he's about, and that's why he's always looking for things outside of his own circle. AJ's got 2 or 3 trainers. He hasn't mentioned Fernando Alonso once. He hasn't mentioned Rob McCrappen once. He stayed mentioning Kronk. So I don't know what we're doing here. It's evident AJ's old team has played it. It's played out now. It's played out. But I'm going to give him one more chance. Let's see how this Usyk fight goes. AJ's clearly verbalised he wants the KO. So if we get in there and we see a bunch of goofiness, then it's played out at that point. My only hope, though, for Team AJ is that they're hiding stuff on purpose. Like, remember, he didn't do the open workout. That was new for me. He's always done an open workout. So it implies that maybe Team AJ have been cooking on stuff. Maybe they've been cooking on something. Because he even said that, yeah, it's all about the Kronk. So maybe Rob McCrappen and whatnot are working on a Kronk style. But, like I said, I wouldn't ever want to lead you man down the garden path. Please don't run and don't hear my video and think, oh, I'm going to bet all the money on KO. I'm not doing that. I'm being honest. I go with certainties, and at this point, I haven't seen enough. If you couldn't go in there and walk down Pulev, I'm not going to jump in like a blind idiot and bet on a straight KO for the Usyk fight. Because Pulev is no excuse not to walk down stiff Pulev. Usyk, in my opinion, is a harder fight than Pulev. And a harder fight to walk down. Because Usyk, to be fair, he can. We've seen him in the Joe Joyce fight. He can get stuck in if he needs to. Pulev can't. So, let's see anyway. I'm intrigued. They refuse to do an open workout, which implies that maybe they've been cooking on something different. Maybe they have. We'll surely know. Within 3 rounds we'll know. If within 3 rounds there's not some sort of serious strategy going on, i.e. we should know after 3 rounds that, wow, AJ's stayed on his jab. Usyk's been scared. What we should see, yeah, is Usyk having to dance round, use all of his energy, and AJ's just cutting the ring off, driving a jab, and driving the right hand into his head. That's all we should really see for the first 3 rounds. That's it. The bad way of things will be if we're in there and we see Usyk coming forward at any time. But in the main, if we see AJ not cutting the ring off, then it's game over. And if that makes sense, it means that there's nothing KO about it. Because at that point, if the bigger man isn't cutting the ring off, what are we doing here? That's what you call boxing. It's a bit like Fury versus Vlad. Fury was dancing around the ring all night because that's what he was doing, boxing. But he wasn't. We all knew that Fury wasn't going for a KO against Vlad. So when someone goes for the KO, the bottom line is they're cutting the ring off. You can't go for a KO on your back foot. That's just what it is. Don't get me wrong. Some fighters get lucky and catch someone on the back foot, but on the main, when your philosophy is going for the KO, it's marching forward in some sort of fashion. So it's not rocket science here. From the opening bell, there should be, and this is the thing, we look at AJ's old fights, that used to be the philosophy. We're going forward. We're cutting the ring off, we're the aggressor. So I'm not saying something that's super foreign here. And I am intrigued now. That little thing about not doing the open workout, it does imply they've got some secrets. And I'm intrigued to see what way it goes. Now, I can't lie to you, I'm not intrigued whatsoever, talking about which way the fight's going to go, in as much as the mystery for me is what AJ turns up. Is it going to be the running one, or is it going to be the march forward one? That's the intrigue for me. It's not a case of a lot of dons are intrigued with, oh, it's going to be Usyk. It's going to be, no, it's not. if I tell you this for free, Usyk's best chance is that AJ comes forward and he magically catches AJ with something. That's Usyk's best chance. If AJ goes on the back foot, Usyk has no chance. He ain't gonna be able to catch AJ. His feet are too quick. So, for example, watch the Ruiz fight. Look how aggressive Ruiz is. Yeah, AJ boxed his aggressive nut off. These guys, the only guy who can possibly do something about that will be Fury because he's taller and longer. But even then, that's the only hope Usyk has. Is that AJ ends up magically chinless, which ain't never going to happen in my opinion. But my point is, he ain't got no chance. The way people carry on about, Usyk's got no hope. If AJ chooses to box, he's got no hope. No hope. But that said, no fans ain't trying to watch that. And there's no need to have to do that against Usyk or against anyone in this heavyweight division today, in my opinion. No one's good enough. That AJ should be needing to run around the place. So I do pray, I hope that what he's saying translates. But at the moment, as I've explained, we've heard this before. Yeah? We heard this before the Pulev fight. It's going to be straight KO. And it was, performance was suspect. So I just hope that this time his team have backed him. Because for me, that's what it comes down to. Do your team back you? Does AJ's team back him to be a KO artist? Do they back him for that kind of style? Unfortunately, after the Ruiz 1 loss, his team didn't back him. His team essentially said, yep, AJ, you got no chin. Your whole career was a lie. Your whole career was a myth. And we better start all over again and do a new style. That's what happened there. So it's no surprise that AJ ain't got much confidence, or hasn't shown much confidence in his style, because his team didn't back him. I told you immediately after that loss, we need to double down. We need to bring the YB in, tighten his defense up, and get to work. Instead, they bottled it, threw it all out the window, and ended up changing into Tyson Fury 2.0, which was a massive travesty. And now, all we've seen since is kind of AJ being caught in two worlds. You've got the aggressive world and you've got the running around world, which we saw in the Pulev fight. The Pulev fight was the best illustration of what's going on in AJ's life at the moment. It's confusion. His nature isn't lining up with his current training and strategy. Have they fixed that? Have they found a way? You know what I mean? Have they realigned it? I'm hoping they have. It could be worse, people, I guess. It could be a case that we're sitting here and 2 days before the fight and AJ saying that, yeah, well, we're going to box. If that was the case, at least at that point we'd have no hope. So at least we've got a little, at least he's given us a bit of hope. But it could just be marketing. It could just be the case that, yep, we're going to run around, but we might as well do some marketing, talking about KOs. But I don't believe AJ gonna. He's not. I don't believe he's that kind of person to just gas the place up like that. And to be honest with you, I'm not sure, but before the Ruiz rematch, I think he was quite honest then. I think he said, "Oh, we're gonna find a way to win." I don't remember him shilling a KO in that fight, which tells me he could have gone into that Ruiz rematch and said, "Yeah, we're gonna murk him." So all in all, that shows us that AJ he's not a liar. He's not gonna say something that he doesn't genuinely believe. In going into the Pulev fight, he genuinely believed it was all about KOs. That was his nature speaking. When he got in there, the training, Rob McCrappen, was on full display. So, let's see how it plays out anyway. I'm intrigued, I'm excited to see what kind of AJ turns up. And in a way, well, you know what, let's see how it plays out. You heard the AJ there. He wanted the KOs. He wanted to impress for the fans. I hope it's the case. And you know what? In all honesty, I'd rather AJ run around than him go in there and have worked on some botched Kronk style plan and look messy again. Does that make sense? I'd rather McCrappen stick to what you know, because at least the running around thing looked sharp. He looked as good as, I've told you before, he looked as good as Tyson Fury in my opinion. So, I'd rather them do that than go in there and do some botched Kronk thing. You know what I'm saying? And end up having a 50-50 with Usyk or something. But then again, that's not even possible, isn't it? It's not even possible. But anyway, I'm excited. I'm excited to see which way AJ wins. But one thing we do know, one thing I am confident of, is going to be AJ win. I don't see no way Usyk can win this fight. No way. Absolutely no way you're going to win. That's one thing he can take to the bank as well. If he wins, I don't know anything about anything. That's a fact. So, as far as the money line goes, on the KO, I'm not for it. But you best believe you can bet your life on it. AJ's not concussed, and if AJ isn't concussed, there isn't a man, least of all Usyk, who can put him out. No way. Not in a million years. I've told you before, I believe people like Usyk, people like Fury could hit AJ flush with their best shot, clean, and it wouldn't knock him out. That's what I believe. Because I've seen Klitschko doing more or less that, and it bounced off, and he got straight back up, and he was gassed, and he was overweight, so that's my belief. This is the case of how AJ wins. That's the only story in this fight, people. Don't get caught up in this. A lot of dons, oh, YB, it's 4-1 for Usyk to win. There's a reason for that. Yeah, he ain't gonna win. And I'm actually glad that some of you Usyk fans showed up, because it means AJ fans can get paid half decent. I wish you man would put more money on. I wish you man would make it 50-50, to be fair. Yeah? But you're gonna be down bad on Sunday. There's no doubt about that. 100%.